I get into today's episode, I want to introduce you to my new brand, Enso. Enso is here to disrupt the waxing industry, and we have just launched our first product called the Enso Duo. It is a first of its kind self-stirring wax warmer. Yes, you heard that correctly. The Enso Duo is a dual warmer that is able to stir your wax at a perfect consistency. And if that wasn't enough to wow you, we also have copper inserts for not only a beautiful updated aesthetic, but also for antimicrobial benefits. This is made by an esthetician for estheticians with its custom design. It is truly here to solve many frustrations with our current wax warmers today. With custom wax holders and a one-of-its-kind design, it is truly something to be seen. So check it out on ensowax.com. And pre-sale is happening until September. So click the link in my bio to find out how you can save up to $400 today on the Enso Duo. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Waxing Podcast. I'm especially excited. Even, Loren, I say this every single time. I'm like, I'm so excited, but I really do get to have on people that I'm genuinely so excited about. But I'm really excited to bring on Loren. She is so cute. Her branding is so fun and her personality matches. And so I cannot wait to have you come onto the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well,
this has been a long time coming.
Yeah, we were just saying that before we hit record. I was like, because obviously we're both T Swift fans. And I was like, this has been a long time coming. So it really has.
Yes, I'm excited. It's been quite the journey. Oh, wait, funny story. I probably should have told you this before we actually recorded because it's so random. But this morning, I was on Instagram and Good American Jeans popped up and it reminded me of the swimsuit you let me borrow when we were in Vegas last year. And I ordered it this morning.
You did? I love that swimsuit. I bought that 2 years ago. I'm surprised she still has it on the website, but that is so funny. Yes, Loren and I met the first time in person in Vegas, and a very sporadic moment. We were in the hotel room were you staying in that hotel room?
Yeah.
Okay, you were. So then I went into her hotel room, I should say, but she was in there with Mackenzie. And did you not bring a swimsuit?
I did not.
That's right. You didn't bring a swimsuit. You weren't planning on going to the pool, but we were like, no, you're going. And I was like, no worries. I have 7. And so
I went quite the collection.
I went and brought down all the swimsuits, and literally Loren gave us a full swimsuit modeling experience where she tried on all of them. And then we went with the Good American one.
Yeah, which I purchased this morning on sale.
Amazing. Yeah, I did not purchase it on sale. So a part of me is obviously envious of that. So Loren, I'm bringing you on here today for 150 reasons, but most importantly, I just feel like it's always amazing to get different perspectives of different beauty business owners. You particularly are someone who I love because your branding is very true to you. I really like how much you lean into your branding, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but also, just that you really worked your way up to where you are now in terms of a storefront. You had your own space and then you decided to expand. And I think that you truly are kind of the expectation of what people might think when they get out of school, what they might do next.
Thank you. Yeah, it was definitely something that I think I didn't know I wanted to do going into beauty school. I'm a licensed cosmetologist. So I thought I wanted to do hair and makeup, which after my first haircut, I was like, no, what am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. But I fell in love with waxing. I worked in a waxing chain for 2.5 years. And from the moment I dreamt up stripped in my mind, I knew I wanted a storefront because I just felt like the experience for both the employees and the client could be done better. And so I knew that was the end goal. I just didn't yet know how I was going to get there or when. Sometimes it even surprises me.
For some people that go into cosmetology school, it's always really interesting to learn a little bit about people that do cosmetology versus esthetician. Because, like, waxing, is such a sliver of the esthetician program. So, like, I know that the waxing program has to be even smaller in the cosmetology program because it's so heavily leaned on color and cutting, and like you just said. So, like, did you find that you liked waxing during school, or was that something that like happened? Like, how did that form in cosmetology school?
So I think that when I first realized I hated doing hair, I was very open at that point to like every little bit that was going to come in because I had just signed up for 11 months of school. And so I'm like, what? I need to get something from this. But simultaneously, my best friend was working at a European wax center. So she was waxing me every month. And I was one of those weirdos that would like sit up and like watch her do
LOL.
it because I thought it was so, I know. Now I'm like, please don't do
And you're
that.
still that weirdo. You're like, it's okay. I'm just looking here, but you don't do it anymore. Yeah. Don't you?
Yeah,
literally hate when clients do that. I'm like, sit, please. Back down, please.
I'm like, you can totally relax. Go ahead and lay back, take a load off. Um, but yeah, so I was really always intrigued with waxing when she would do it. So it was on my radar. And then when we did learn waxing in school, yeah, I think we learned it was one day. The first half of the day was, theory in the classroom. Here's what not to do, here's what to do. And then we went in and we practiced eyebrow and lip on each other. And then I remember I snuck in because, we had like the curtains. And so one of my friends was like, wax my legs. And I was like, okay. And I had kind of remembered from watching my friend. So I was like laying strips of the hard wax from this tiny little pot. And my instructor ripped the curtain open and she's like, you're not supposed to be doing that. That's how European wax centers. And I
Well,
was
you're like,
like,
okay, well, it's
yeah.
fate. Yeah,
I'm like, yeah,
exactly.
okay.
I love how they said that's how
So
European Wax Center does it. Like, okay, yeah.
you're like, and they're
Is it,
successful.
isn't
So,
this the point?
right. So then I actually went and got a job at European Wax Center working in the front desk, doing all the reception stuff. And then as soon as I graduated, there was a waxer leaving that had been there for like 8 years. She was not going to stay in the industry. So my manager was like, I need a waxer. You in? And I was like, I'm in. I got 3 days of training and they threw me to the wolves.
Oh my gosh. Do you have any crazy stories from like the beginnings? I mean, I just feel like other than like, I don't really have stories. I have one like where the wax was too warm. But other than that, I just remember feeling so nervous and like not allowed to be doing it. Like I felt like I was walking in and I'm like, I should not be doing this yet. Like, but you just got to do it because then you'll always feel like that. But I like remember
Yeah.
the feeling, not like stories. But some people have some really good stories.
I have one really good story. But going back, I was excited. I was like, probably still like you, shouldn't have been doing that quite yet. But like, couldn't tell me that. I was like, yeah, bring it on. But my best story is probably I had just gotten LASIK eye surgery.
Mhm.
And it was I think it might have been my first day back at work. So I'm still wearing like weird goggles. I'm still healing, okay? And it's summertime, Arizona, 115 degrees outside. So we were doing the booty strip, had to put a little powder on her. And when I bent down to apply the wax, she tooted. And the
Mhm.
powder poofed right up into my face. And I just remember thinking, like, oh my God, am I going to go blind? Like, it's just going to get into my eye. And so, which, like, whatever, it's happened before. It'll happen again and again. Like, that part doesn't bother me. It was the powder in my face that I just was
Yeah,
like,
it was
oh
like the
my
after
God.
surgery.
Yeah. And so and this was still like early on to my waxing career. And I called my dad after work because I don't know why he's just weird and like to hear my weird, funny stories. I don't know. So I was telling him, and now he calls me his powder puff girl to this day. So that's just a fun one.
I mean, my question is like, it's just funny because could you imagine calling, you may have done it, but like, could you imagine calling your doctor and being like, so this is what happened and am I dying and am I going to die? Am I'm gonna go blind.
Will I still be able to see? Please help me.
Yeah.
I know. So that one, nothing traumatic, just kind of funny.
Yeah, definitely funny. I know, because things like that happen in appointment. It is what it is, but it doesn't mean it's like not funny. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
because like we normalize it and like that's fine, and I'm happy and always will be doing that. It's funny at the same time. Like it's allowed to be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're allowed to giggle a little bit, for
yeah,
sure.
for sure. So after European Wax Center, you were there for, you said, 2 years, 2 years, 2.5,
2.5.
2.5 years. When was stripped something that you wanted to do? Did you like conceive that idea before European Wax Center? Like, did you? My question always to people that are business owners, especially like in this industry, is, the cool thing about being a business owner is you can just decide you want to be one, right? It's like you don't
Hmm.
have to go to school to be a business owner. You have to go to school to
Yeah.
do all of the things, but you don't have to
Right.
start a business with any type of degree. So I always ask people, because I'm like, with that being said, there's always so many paths that people take. Either they, you conceived the idea of stripped in school, but you knew you needed to do XYZ to successfully run stripped, or you had the idea one day and you just like let that flow and it just evolved because you wanted it to. So like, what direction did stripped take with you?
I When I was in school, I knew I wanted a business. I didn't know it was going to be a waxing business. I didn't know any of that. I just knew that I had the passion to be an entrepreneur. And when I was working at European Wax Center, my stepdad, who's actually also an entrepreneur, was the one that was like, you could do this. Like, you could have your own thing. Have you thought about it? And I was like, well, yeah, but I liked working there at the time. Like, I didn't have a problem yet. Um, and then we got new management and things really just took like a unpleasant turn. And, it was great until it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of just became a very toxic work environment. And so it was more on my radar. And so for that last half of my time, or the last 6 months, I should say, of my time there, I was kind of dreaming it up on the background. And yeah, and then one day the universe was like, okay, it's now.
Do you
All
feel
right.
like, I feel like that happens sometimes, like in life, you just like walk into a job and you're like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. And like, I'm very headstrong to where like, I mean, that's it. It's like done. 2 weeks are going in.
Well, it was, I'm not proud of this, but I got into like an argument, like a screaming match with my manager. And again, that's not me. Like, I'm not a screamer
Mm-mm.
and I'm not going to disrespect my management, but like, it just got to that point. And it's funny because like I said, stripped was already on my radar. I was getting things in place, but I didn't have a space and I was on a wait list because this was before suites were kind of a much more, what's the word I'm looking for, available thing, I guess. There weren't as many. So I was on a wait list. And so I get into this argument with my manager. Next day, I'm coming into work for sure thinking I'm going to get fired because I did not hold back. I said everything I wanted to say. And on my way in, I got a call from the studio that I was on waitlist for, and there was a suite available. So I basically just put in my notice.
I thought you were going to end that thing with saying, because you were like, I'm not proud of this. I thought you were like, and I walked right back around and went back in my car and left.
Well, I did. I was working a double that day, and I went on my lunch break. I was like, yes, I want it. Don't give it to anyone else. I ran on my lunch break, signed the lease. And I actually, at the time, I had a girl that was potentially going to split it with me, but it
Mhm.
was a little bit too like sudden. She wasn't ready. And I was like, well, I still got to do this. And it was a little scarier because I didn't have that person to lean on for the other half of the rent, but I was like, I'll figure it out. I'm doing it. And
And
Trip was gone.
whenever you opened up stripped, like, do you remember having because how many years ago was that when you signed?
That was October of 2018.
Okay. And in
So
2018, going into your own business, being someone who, I mean, I wouldn't really say the word forced to open your own business, but you definitely weren't seeing it on the radar. You were liking where you were, and then obviously things got unpleasant. So like going into your own business, like did you have any doubts at any point when you were trying to get clients, or did you, happen to find like a great way to connect and get clients? I know you said that there weren't many suites available. So like, did that help at the time, having like that maybe less range of people?
I think it could have. I think also I was just so, I mean, I feel like I'm going to compare this to what you're building right now. It's like
Hmm.
when you, in your post, when you talked about like you were up at night because you knew you had something that you wanted to create. It was like that. It was like I knew I wanted to build strips and I was so passionate about building it that of course there are new challenges. I had to learn new things, but it didn't daunt me. It didn't scare me. It was exciting. So I networked a lot at the time, and did a lot of, in my community networking groups, which I do think helped with my business, but also my confidence because I had to speak in front of, all these business professionals and I'm like, hey, come get waxed, you know?
Isn't it really
But
funny to be like a business professional in our industry? Because it's like, it should be taken just as serious as any other business out there. But I do find it really funny sometimes who I talk to, when I talk to them, and like when they ask me what I do for a living, I'm like, not that I like don't want to tell them. It's just like, how do you interpret that you're like a serious business owner? Like, you know what I mean? It's just so
yeah,
funny because people are like, oh, cool. And you're like, okay.
it was, I kind of decided to, I feel like that was also where my brand started to really blossom because I felt like my best approach to promoting my business was through getting people to laugh and giving it a humorous approach because they were laughing anyways. You know what I mean? The group that I joined was a group of, there was 80 business professionals in this group, and they're all lawyers, contractors, in their business suits. And we had to stand up and give 20-second commercials every meeting. Um, and so I found that when I started getting them to laugh was when they were approaching me after, they were interested, they wanted to come in and they remembered me that way. And so that was just when I was like, okay, there's something to this. Like I'm
Well,
going
and
to keep
it's,
just being me.
I was going to say, it's so to your personality though, because whenever you said like I took a funnier approach to that, like I can totally see it. I feel like on your Instagram and stories and like just who your business represents as a whole, it's very playful, like in a good way though. It's like,
Yeah.
my business is serious. I have this really amazing thing, but when you come to my place, like what you will experience is, light humor and funny and silliness. Like you'll never feel left out. Like your business gives a really great like hug, if you will.
Yes. And
Like
that's
that's a
exactly what I wanted because I wanted it to feel like, waxing can be scary. If you're a client that's never done it, you're already, there's nerves that are already there. So I wanted it to feel when people walked into strip, like, okay, wait, this is kind of fun. Like this isn't so scary. I can do this. And then, the only thing we do take seriously around there is the client experience and the service itself. You're going to get a high quality service, but we can have fun while we do it.
Yeah, for sure. And for everybody that's hearing her say we, it is because we are now talking into
Oh yeah.
2023 when we have, which is a perfect segment into where you landed. So after having your own suite, you decided to expand. And one of the really cool things I think about expanding is knowing that you are building something that people are wanting to be a part of, because expanding usually means that you've grown out of your other space. And so how was that feeling of like being booked and not being able to take people and being like, whoa, I have to build this bigger if I want to continue to spread strip?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a little scary, but really exciting. I had to remind myself to stop and take it in because that is one thing I don't do often is like, hey, wow, I built this to this point. I need help. Um, but it was also like, what, how do I do that? Like,
It's
what
like
do
a
I
whole
do to
new
hire
world.
someone? A whole different, I was a waxer. I could, I could wax all day long, but how do I lead someone? How do I create success for them? So, but we love a good challenge. So
I mean, it is
we
a
did
lot
it.
of responsibility though. It's like for the Instagram purposes and TikTok and all of the social media outlets, we really don't talk enough about the hardship of like kind of molding yourself into a new version of a business owner, because it's a really big responsibility for the other lives in now your business. Like it's fun and all when you get cancellations, and it's fun, not fun, but tolerable because it's happening to you. But then to have this
Yes.
team that weighs heavily on your business, I'm like, I can't even imagine the responsibility of that.
That was like going back to the stuff that keeps you up at night. That is now my new well, I shouldn't say keeps me up at night anymore, because I do think that I've really worked hard to kind of figure out my systems and processes when it comes to that. But that is definitely the forefront of my operations now, is making sure that they're successful, and are they getting paid well? Are they, you know, at their highest potential? Are they succeeding to what they could be?
Now, do you feel like there was anything that really helped you at that point when you were going from like a solo suite to a, already challenging of having I keep wanting to say brick and mortar, although it is a brick and mortar, but we like to call it as my gosh, I've been saying it all this whole time.
Storefront.
Storefront. I'm like, why
Storefront.
can't I storefront, but brick and mortar is the same difference. But,
Yeah.
going from like a smaller space, kind of where the landlord typically helps, even though you still have a landlord, but it's kind of like suites are like wrapped up in a bow. Like they're just like, here you go. This is the things you get, sign here, go.
Hmm.
But a storefront is a whole different ballgame. So as you are learning kind of like the new challenges with a storefront, what was your outlet of learning, how to be a business owner or a leader, or, all of those processes? Like, did you lean on friends? I know you said your stepdad was a entrepreneur. Like, who was your go-to for that?
I do think having Aubrey, so I hired Aubrey when I was still in the suite. And it
Mm-hmm.
was when, she was fully booked, we were at full capacity, that I decided to expand. But I feel like that gave me a good taste of hiring. Although I will say she was also a unicorn. Like there weren't really challenges with her, which is awesome. But it left, when I then expanded into the storefront and hired my next set of employees, there was a lot of lessons learned. And I think at first I thought I had it figured out, you know what I mean? Because it was so easy before, and that was not the case. So I did invest in some education. So I actually took Rhea's 7-figure teams course, because
Mm-hmm.
that was coming out right around the time that I needed it. And I also am very, very lucky that I have friends here in the community like Mackenzie to lean on. I'm like, voice message, hi, can you please?
No, like literally. I always say it's like
It,
the biggest thing is networking. You have to network and know your community, because your community, if you are, doing it in a way that's, I guess, genuine, people want to help you. Like there's no
yes,
gatekeeping in a community of people that like love you. So
no. Well, and just from talking to Mackenzie and other friends in the industry, it was like, okay, wait, so we all feel the same way. Instagram paints one picture, like you said, but internally behind the scenes, like we're all losing it a little bit. Okay, cool. So let's like be there for each other. And if I have something that can help you go through that, great. And if you have something that you can help me go through it, cool too. And I think, yeah, community when you're building something is so crucial. I can't say that enough.
yeah, I always say that too. I'm like, I don't think I will ever be able to pound this in people's head enough that I literally owe every single thing I've done in this industry to this point to community and networking.
Yeah, it's so powerful.
Yeah. So having these new set of employees, you said that you had Aubrey, who is your first employee, somebody who you had in your treatment room when you were just a suite owner, um, going into a storefront and then hiring more people. Because how many rooms did you have and how many people did you need to fill?
So I have 3 rooms, and then I have 2 brow chairs. And I I did know it was something I was going to grow into. I didn't feel the need to fill every room and every chair right off the bat. But I did at the time, I thought I wanted to keep my girls very niched to their strengths. So I wanted to hire a brow artist that would be designated to the brow chair. And then I wanted to hire a waxing specialist that would just be like thrive with the body waxing. Um, and, but also at the time, I just thought I needed bodies and I hadn't really figured out like what my hiring process would look like or should look like or how to pick the best candidates. So I kind of just went with what I thought was best. I didn't have yet an employee handbook. I didn't have training manuals. I knew how to train someone, but I didn't really have everything I should have had. And that was the lesson looking back. It's like now having those implemented into my hiring process has completely saved me. And I cannot stress enough that those things I personally think should be implemented before you hire someone. It just
Yeah.
takes so much of the like guess for setting expectations and what you want those employees to do and what your culture should be, what your values are. And I didn't do that. So it was like I was frustrating myself because these things weren't getting done, or I was just noticing things that I wasn't happy with, but I didn't set those expectations. So
I was going to say, so what does like a hiring process today look like? Like, what is like your step? Like, do you send out a hiring, obviously like post? And
yes.
then from where? So somebody comes in and do you have a handbook to give them? Like you set different expectations. Like, do you feel like that's changed so much of who now gets hired?
Absolutely. And I think that my hiring process has changed with every round of hiring I've done. Not a lot, but it's tweaked just a little bit because as I've grown, I've learned, little lessons along the way of things that I want to change or implement. I think they're always growing and changing when you're scaling a
Mm-hmm.
business, but um, now it's on our website, so I'll do an Instagram post. I don't utilize anything other than social media at the moment to find people. It's worked out well for me thus far. So I'll usually put out a post. I like to give it an end date. So my applications will usually stay open for about a week. And then um, I ask, there's a link on my website, and then I take it to, oh my God, Typeform. I use Typeform right
Mm-hmm.
now. Asks for their info, and then I throw in some fun questions that are very random. But like I said, we like to have fun. So I want people that are going to have fun with us. And it's interesting because sometimes people won't answer them, they
I
skip right
was
past
just gonna
them.
say, and then you're like, that's an automatic no, right?
Yeah, I don't even look at their resume further. Like to me, which might sound silly, might sound aggressive, but they're on there for a reason. So, and to
Mm.
me, if you can't answer that question, it says more than just maybe that you're not fun. It's like, well, why? What makes you think that? If you
Well, I
want
think
this
it's
job,
I was gonna say, I think it's more so what I would see. Yeah, it's not like, oh, you're not fun. Obviously, you didn't answer it. I think it's more about like attention to detail. And if you feel like you can just pass that
yes,
along, are you going to feel like you could just skip cleaning the surface of the counter one night? Do you feel like you could, you know what I mean? Like those little actions that are happening within the application process are like giving you kind of that lens of what might happen into your business.
yes, that is exactly it. The
Yeah, which
detail.
is it is the detail. And I always say, like, it's been such a fear. Well, that's not the path I ended up taking anyway. I don't have a storefront and I don't think that it's in the cards for me, but it's funny because, knowing and wanting like whatever you want in the industry. And like, for me, there was like a time where I was like, do I want to own my own business? Like, do I want to have a storefront and employees and things like that? But like, I would genuinely have to learn so many lessons because I think something that I struggle a lot with, and I know this about myself, is I'm such a like I want things done my way. And like it is really difficult for me, even like in my house, like, there's a way I put away the groceries. Like, I'm not kidding you, Lauren. Like, I literally am so annoying. I walk in from the grocery store, right? We have like 70 bags, and I say, we drop them, and my man tries to grab one goddamn thing out of that bag, and I'm like, no, 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 just go sit down, please, go play with Roman, like go do what
You're like, I
like
got it.
But like that would be really hard for me. So like, do you have to overcome any of like your, not that we share the same ones, but like, is there anything as a business owner that has been really hard for you, or like something that you physically have to like learn? Like, I think for me, I would have to figure that out, and I would have to give some to someone else. Like, I could not thrive like that.
Yes, delegating has been an interesting lesson for me. Like I said, everything has just been lessons, if I'm being real. But yeah, I I think that when it was time to hire more people, Aubrey had been with me for almost 2 years at this point. So I really leaned on her a lot as well. So I did have her help me with a lot of the brow training because I liked one piece that I still stand by that I took from Rhea's course is when you're hiring people, hire them. They should be better at you than what it is that you're looking for them for. And
Hmm.
Aubrey is better at brows than me. And so I was like, okay, that is one thing that I can take off of my plate. I mean, obviously her and I took the time to develop training, and she knew how I wanted things and she knew how I liked things. So that helped me out a lot when it came to training as far as the technicalities of brows. Leaning on her was a huge help, but then also just again, setting my expectations very clearly in the training and in the handbook. And when I see something now, I have to address it and nip it in the butt, because before, lesson learned, I wouldn't, because I was still learning how to like have those uncomfy conversations, but not addressing it would bite me in the ass later. So now we just make sure that when we see things, we address it. And I try to just set the expectation in the beginning to avoid it in the first place. Um, but yeah, so a little bit of delegation, expectation setting has
I love
helped
that
a
you
lot.
say like uncomfy with uncomfortable conversations, because like I literally felt that to my core. And I feel like so many estheticians have that issue. It's like it's all fun and games, right? Until you have to have an uncomfortable conversation. And like I just said, anybody can be a business owner in the beginning of this podcast. And it really is true, because you can, and that's the fun of the reality of it. But then the other part is like, because you decided you want to be a business owner, like there are some things that come with the territory. One being that you have to have a lot of uncomfortable conversations in order to excel your end business goal. And it's
Yeah,
hard, right? i
it's
just
really hard.
I just had to have
I will have,
one, so
oh,
I
sorry,
get
go
it.
ahead.
No, you're good. I just said I just had to have one this week, and it tore me apart. Like for 24 hours straight, I actually was like, I could not stop thinking about it. That's like my thing is like, until it's said, I can't stop thinking about it. But then saying it is something I don't want to do. So it's like, oh,
Mhm.
it's so hard.
That's so true, though. And that's how you know you need to have it in the first place, when it's like eating at you and you can't stop thinking about it. Because you do feel better when it's done. But oh, yeah, I will pace around and I'll talk to myself. I always talk to myself. I'm like, what do I say? How do I say this? What do I say? I'm like sweating. But then, I am the person, I'm the boss around here, not in a gross way, but like I'm the one that has to have those conversations and address it, because at the end of the day, you know, it can't, for strip to be its best, everyone's got to be their best.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too, because that's the thing about employees is like when you're doing something wrong, you can look at yourself in the mirror and tell your ass to get it together. But when you have a list of employees, like those are also a new set of personalities, how they take the news, how they, talk to you back. Like there's a lot that you have to emotionally be ready to deal with as like a brick and mortar person. So I actually had someone on the podcast, whose name is Nicole, who worked at Sephora as a manager before she ended up owning her own business. And I think that was such a cool experience for somebody who ends up being a business owner to have, because in that process of being a manager for someone else's company, you got a taste of what it's like to delegate and to have conversations with people and like do it in different ways that like maximize their results. So I was like, it's really cool that I never was like a manager for like a retail company, but I can imagine how amazing that would be, right? For like a business in our field.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because that is something I now kind of feel like I've stepped more into a manager role, having no experience I mean, I have a lot of customer service experience from my past, and I've had a lot of jobs, and I do feel like I have people skills, but that is where, continuing education and leaning on the community has helped me develop more into to combining that with the managerial and the leadership qualities. And being in that leadership role is what I wanted. So it's kind of like you have to learn the lessons to get to where you want to be, even though they
Yeah.
suck sometimes.
They literally suck all the time. Like, oh my God. Well, now when we think about Stripped, I know that we've talked a lot about like your processes and things like that, but like how has it been? How has owning a storefront been? And like, do you feel, I mean, does it feel really cool to walk into a space and be like, wow, this was just someone else's business before mine, and or it was an empty building and now it's like mine. Like I have this place outside of my house.
Yeah, it's cool. And it took me a while to get to the point where I would stop and acknowledge that, because it was a lot and still is. But it took me probably like a year to really get my groove and to figure it all out, from the team aspect to growing, scaling, and just having more personalities from both the team and the client standpoint. Um, but I feel like I've gotten a grip on it. So, again, kind of in this last month and this forced rest, it's been like, wow, I did really build something. And what was really cool was seeing my business still do very well with me being gone for almost 3 weeks. Because that had never happened before. But that was really when I hit that aha moment of like, oh, dang, I really did that. That's
Does
cool.
that open you up to being like just does that open you up to like feeling better about taking more time off in the future, knowing that you could in fact do it, and the business still, it doesn't die. It's still there. People are doing good. Maybe not as amazing as when you're there, but like do you feel like that was like a good outcome for that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. I think it definitely helped, because I have aspirations to do other things, but I felt like I was in that weird middle point of, okay, but if my clients will be upset, and is the business, am I still like the main breadwinner for the business here? Can it succeed without me being here doing clients? Because like I said, I had these other things I wanted to chase after and I wanted to do that would require me to be outside of the treatment room, but I was torn and then kind of forced to take the time. So seeing it still succeed is like, yeah, okay, wait. Now I'm feeling fueled to go and do and put energy into these other things that I've always wanted to do, because I know Stripped will be better than okay. And I'm still there. You know what I mean? Like, it's still my baby. I'm still very much in it. But now I can, maybe take clients one day less and work on this project, or, whatever it may be. And so, yeah, it's a really cool feeling. It's,
Now, obviously, you just shared in today's time that you're working on something. Is there any like hints, or is there anything to look forward to as people continue to follow your journey?
Yes. So Aubrey and I have actually been working behind the scenes on something for a while. We decided, she's a phenomenal brow artist, probably one of the best I've seen. Maybe I'm biased, but I think she's phenomenal. And I really thrive talking business and scaling and growing business. And so we just decided it was time to mush our strengths, and create a community, but even more than that, a really, what do I want to say, a resource for all of our brow babes out there.
I
So,
love that.
yeah, it'll be jam packed with a lot of, value and fun. And I don't know, I'm excited.
I love
Stay
that.
tuned.
Yay. Well, we will definitely stay tuned. And where can people find information about, your socials, your website, and obviously, I'm sure they can go to your social to learn more about your community resource project.
Yeah, so on Instagram, we are stripped AZ, and then strippedaz.com. And then we are going to be going live with our next little venture here pretty soon. So definitely come stay tuned.
Yay! Thank you so much, Loren, for coming on to the podcast. I know you're literally so
Of
busy. You just got
course.
done with surgery, and we didn't even really get into that, but that was your 3 weeks off. So I'm so happy
Yes.
that you're healing very well and that your business is doing good.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad that I finally got to get on here.
Literally, like I said, my T Swift lyrics. It's been a long time coming.
It's you and me.